Hi everyone. Today we're going to be doing lesson 8.3, day 1. This is pattern block angles. Our objective today is to find measures of pattern block angles and use known angle measures to find measures of other angles. So it's really cool. It's kind of like figuring out the missing piece of the puzzle, except it's going to be the missing measures of angles and pattern blocks. So it's really missing numbers. So go ahead and click on your home screen. And we're going to start with your math message. We're going to be using pattern blocks today, so you're going to find them in the bottom of your screen, your tools, or you can even use them in your toolkit, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit. So here's your math message for today. It's on your screen, or you can find it on journal page 278. I'm going to read it out loud to you, so follow along with me. Lynn is playing with her grandchildren's pattern blocks, and she notices that some of the blocks' angles fit exactly in the angles of other blocks. Remember, we're focusing on the angles. We're not just trying to put blocks on top of other blocks. We're not just trying to match them up and make them fit inside the block. We're focusing more on the angles as shown here. She sees that 2 of the white rhombus's small angles fit into 1 of the red trapezoid's small angles. That means that the measure of the trapezoid's small angle is 2 times the measure of a white rhombus's small angle. So let's just take a closer look at this so you know what they're talking about when they say small angle. So I'm going to pull up these tools here, pattern blocks at the bottom, and I'm going to pull up my red trapezoid, and I'm going to pull up my white rhombus just so you know what they're talking about. And then I'm going to have you go do the problem. So let's see. I'm going to trace over where they're showing you the angles are. So this one right in here, this angle, that is the red trapezoid's small angle. And this one up here would be the large angle. And here's another one of the red trapezoid's small angles. And that's what they're showing you here. And the white rhombus, they're talking about the white rhombus's small angles, and this is the white rhombus's small angle, is this angle in here, and this angle in here. This angle here, that is the white rhombus's large angle. So when I do problems like this, I do like to use the toolkit. I just have more room. So you can go ahead and click on your toolkit, and you would click on eTools down here and scroll down to find the pattern blocks. So here I pulled up the pattern blocks that we would need to be using for the math message today. I have my red trapezoid and my white rhombuses, and I'm going to just move them around like they did. And it says that, actually I'm going to mark where the angle is first. And looking at this angle in here, that angle right in there, they said 2 of these small angles of the white rhombus can fit in there. So I'm going to move this, and I'm going to have to turn it a little bit so it matches up. So I have one of those. Let me just turn it a little bit more. There's one, and I see inside the angle, I have a little bit of a red sliver, and I can turn this one. Let's see if that fills up the space so I can see exactly what they're talking about. Right about there. So whatever the measure is of that red angle, of the red trapezoid, is 2 of the white rhombuses. So that's what they're explaining. So what I would like for you to do is to go ahead and answer number 1, number 2, and number 3 of your math message. And when you're finished with that, come on back and I'm going to show you the answers. So if you're not ready yet to see the answers, then make sure, boys and girls, that you pause your screen because I'm going to go ahead with the answers. So let's take a look. Let me go back in to number 1. How many of the white rhombus's small angles are needed to fill the red trapezoid's large angle? So of course, I'm going to pull up my pattern blocks. And I want to focus on the red trapezoid's large angle. And these are the large angles up here. So I'm just going to turn that around, make it a little bit easier. And the angle that I want to focus on, I'm just going to look at one of the large angles. So I'm going to look at this angle right in here. And I could tell that is an obtuse angle. So how many of the white rhombus's small angles can fill up that whole angle? Let's see. Let me pull up some white rhombuses. Start with 2. 1. Turn this a little bit. I have 1, 2, and I have some more room inside the angle over here. 3, and I see that I have more space inside the angle here. And I need to turn that a little bit more. So it looks like 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, just focusing on these small angles of my white rhombuses right in here and filling up this angle. I don't have to fill in every single part of my shape because I'm not looking at covering the whole shape. I'm just filling in the angles. So for this one, you should have gotten 4. Number 2, how many of the white rhombus's small angles fit in one of the green triangle's angles? So I'm going to show you the answers, reveal that to you. So number 1, we got 4. Number 2, you should have gotten 2. Number 3, how many of the green triangle's angles fit in each of the red trapezoid's angles? So for the small angle of the red trapezoid, you should have gotten 1. And for the large angle of the red trapezoid, you should have gotten 2. And any observations you can make about the angles of the white rhombus, red trapezoid, and green triangle, you should have noticed that multiples of the small angle of the white rhombus can fit exactly into all of the large angles of the other pattern blocks. And that will come in really handy for the open response question for today. So let's go ahead and look at your open response question. Solve the problem and revise. You could go ahead and click on that. We're going to do something very similar to what we just did, except now we're going to be applying numbers, angle measures. So let's take a look. Pattern block angle measures. Lynn finds a complete set of pattern blocks. Help Lynn figure out the size of the angles in some of the different shapes. You can use what you know about squares. Each of the 4 angles of a square measures 90 degrees. So I know that this angle in here is 90 degrees. They're all 90 degrees. We're going to need that number. That 90 is going to be super important. Because in math, we use what we're given or we use what we have to figure out what we don't have. So we need to use that 90. Put some blocks on top of others to fit angles together to figure out the measures of the angles. So once again, you're going to be using your pattern blocks. And let's see what we have on screen 2. All right, what is the measure of the small angle of a white rhombus? So I want to go back and I want to somehow use my 90-degree angle to figure out the measure of the white rhombus. So you'll want to bring up this white rhombus and focus on this small angle and focus on that angle. So why don't you go ahead and experiment with that? Figure that one out. You have, let's see, that was screen 2. Screen 3, you're going to do the same thing, but the measure of the large angle. So you'll want to go ahead and figure those out. And then once you get to number 3, which is on screen 4, you have two people's solutions that you want to explain who's right, who's wrong, or are they both correct? And you can answer that right on screen 5. So why don't you go ahead and do that now before I show you the result. So experiment by moving different shapes around. Pause your program and go on back to screen 1, which is where you had that picture and you had the 90 and you had the white rhombus. So why don't you try that? I'm going to go ahead with the answers. All right, so let me get this off. Okay, how did you do figuring those out? So let's take a look and we'll see about that. All right, so for the measure of the small angle of the white rhombus, you should have gotten 30 degrees because if you match them up, you'll see that 3 of them fit in perfectly in that 90-degree angle. The measure of the large angle of the white rhombus is 150 degrees, and you could have matched up all of those small ones. You could have used the 90. You could have used a green triangle or 2 or 3. So there's a few different ways you could have matched up the pieces after playing with them and seeing which angles can fit into which ones and making connections between the shapes and their angles. And then for that other problem where you have the two students work, you should see that they'll both work for various reasons if you take a look at it carefully. So how did you do? If you had trouble with this one, go back, hold the manipulatives, well, move them around the best that you can in your screen, and remember to write on the screen, mark them up, see how you did. Do it again if you need to. Match up just those angles. Use all the shapes. Good luck, boys and girls.